this isn't midnight. It's not a scene after a blizzard either. It's noon on a Friday at one of the busiest airports in the United States. Just 10 years ago, this was the gateway welcoming millions of visitors to America to dream, explore, learn, do business, and hope. But what about now quiet paths? The flights were cancelled and the dreams perhaps have changed direction. There are no more Japanese tourists in Hawaii. There are no Germans left in San Francisco. And even Americans are avoiding domestic flights. Why are there such unbelievable truths? What's really happening to America? In this video, we'll explore 10 major and minor airports across the United States. From cities that once thrived on tourism to centers that were once national pride, but are now just rows of empty seats and the howling wind. A small note is that the video reflects social reality based on public data, not intended to attack any event or organization. This isn't just a story about tourism. This is a wake-up call about America's standing and why the world is choosing not to visit us anymore. Stay until the end of the video to see how the world's former favorite airport is now called the scariest in America by the very tourists who loved it. Let's get started. There's a paradox unfolding in the heart of the Nevada desert. Las Vegas, with its dazzling neon lights, luxurious hotels, and endless nights, has an airport as deserted as if the dream has died. According to TSA data in the summer of 2025, the number of international passengers at McCarran Airport decreased by as much as 62% compared to the same period in 2019 from nearly 4 million visitors per month. The number has now dropped to around 1.5 million, a figure that has shocked the local tourism industry. As the story we heard from a hotel receptionist on the Las Vegas Strip further paints a desolate picture, before Chinese, Korean, and Australian guests were jostling to check in. Some days the entire lobby floor is packed, as now I can hear the air conditioner running all morning. After all, what happened to the city of the American dream? Part of the reason comes from increasingly strict immigration policies, lengthy tourist visas, complex security checks, and undeniably a United States that is viewed differently in the eyes of international visitors. When asked why they weren't choosing the US anymore, a young traveler from Singapore frankly shared, "I prefer Europe. It's easier to get around, as safer, and I don't feel like I'm being scrutinized when entering." What's even more thought-provoking, even those who once dreamed of Las Vegas are now turning to Tokyo, Paris, or Seoul. Cities that were once rivals are now becoming safer and more attractive options. According to the latest data, the number of inbound tours from Asia to the US has decreased by 46% in the past 2 years. The number of luxury hotel rooms booked in Vegas by international guests decreased by over 50%. 3 major Asian airlines have withdrawn all direct flights to McCarran from the first quarter of 2025. Is this a temporary phenomenon? Maybe. But it's also possible this is a sign of a larger shift as travel to the US is no longer a dream to be reached, but just one option among countless others. Less convenient, more expensive, and less friendly. And if Las Vegas, once a global entertainment icon, where there was a wedding every minute and a party every night, is also becoming quiet, as is the American dream losing its vitality. Have you ever been to Las Vegas? Do you feel this place still has the same appeal as before? If you were an international visitor, would you choose to come to the US this year? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. If Las Vegas, the city that never sleeps, is this empty, then another airport that was once the gateway to the entire country is now just a place of silent waiting. You won't believe it's Chicago. Can you imagine? An airport that was once the pride of connecting America to the world now has 4 international gates closed because there aren't enough passengers to open them every day. That's what's happening at Chicago O'Hare, the second largest airport in the United States. From April 2025, flights from Frankfurt, Seoul, and Toronto, which are major routes, will be almost completely cut with no promise of their return. Compared to 2019, the number of international visitors decreased by over 55%, forcing many airport restaurants and duty-free shops to close their shutters. The once bustling walkways are now only filled with the echoing announcements from the loudspeakers and the dim, gloomy light from the unmanned ticket counters. And then, a perspective rarely mentioned, many German, South Korean, and Canadian airlines have officially withdrawn from direct flights to Chicago, instead prioritizing less risky cities like Boston, Seattle, or even Toronto. Doesn't it sound strange that one of the three largest cities in the United States no longer has enough appeal to retain international flights? So, what's making Chicago less appealing than it used to be? It's not just about ticket prices or travel trends, but a deeper feeling, a loss of faith in safety. Since the wave of unrest in 2020, as Chicago's image has consistently appeared on international channels with scenes of protests and daytime robberies right in the city center, many tourists, especially from Europe, say frankly that they no longer feel comfortable choosing Chicago as a destination. A tour coordinator at Chicago O'Hare shared that she used to pick up groups from Germany, South Korea, Brazil, etc. every week. But since the beginning of 2025, her schedule has been completely empty and her team has been cut by 50%. She shared, "It seems like Chicago has lost its position, and we, those in the tourism industry, are the first to be affected." As the world's confidence in America's third largest city seems to wane, who will suffer the most? Are they people who live off tourism as small businesses, or are they the very image of America on the international stage? And if Chicago, a modern, vibrant icon, can become so deserted, what happened to places that were once vacation paradises? In the next section, you'll see an airport that once welcomed millions of beachgoers, but now only the howling wind echoes across the runway. Just a few years ago, Orlando Airport was the gateway to endless fun. Every day, thousands of families arrive with bags in hand, as children excitedly meeting Mickey Mouse, dinosaurs at Universal, or Harry Potter in real life for the first time. But now that laughter is almost gone, airlines are cutting flights from London, Frankfurt, and even Toronto, a market that once generated hundreds of millions of USD annually. The international arrivals hall at MCO is deserted. Immigration counters are empty, taxis have no passengers, and hotels around the airport are only 35% full. Ticket prices are skyrocketing, and it takes over 4 months to get a US visa. Meanwhile, Japan and South Korea only require an e-visa for a few days. Shared a family from Vancouver. Not only adults, but children no longer dream of going to America like they used to. In fact, according to a 2025 survey by the Family Travel Association, only 1 in 5 Canadian parents chose the US as a destination for the next 3 years, a sharp decrease from 4 out of 5 in 2019. And you know what? For the first time in over 20 years, as Universal Studios reported a loss during the summer, something that has never happened. Not even during the 2008 economic crisis. It's not because of poor quality, but because people aren't coming anymore. MCO is becoming a symbol of a paradox, as America still has some of the best tourist destinations in the world, but they are no longer easily accessible to international visitors. High costs, rigid visa policies, and an image that is no longer friendly. Is this how America is blocking the flow of money from the family travel market, which used to bring in billions of USD each summer? If you are an international tourist, would you choose the United States as your destination this year, or will you go somewhere else because it's cheaper, easier, and safer? Please share your thoughts with us by leaving a comment below this video. And if you think Orlando is an exception, as the story that happened at the next airport on this list will make you shudder, as even global icons are quietly declining. Once a symbol of revival after the industrial crisis, Detroit Metro Airport now has an unusually sad appearance. The gates that were once bustling are now open, revealing only emptiness. The waiting chairs were empty, and the flight information boards were sparsely updated. A strange feeling as if someone had pressed the pause button on the entire city. According to the latest statistics, the number of international passengers at DTW has decreased by nearly 59% compared to pre-pandemic levels, as no longer are there streams of people pouring in from Europe. No longer are there bustling flights serving conferences, exhibitions, or international trade. An Uber driver shared with us, back in 2019, I was practically stationed at the airport. We receive 80-10 flights every day. Now, I might get a trip, but it's to see someone off who's going abroad. Your story isn't unique. It accurately reflects a reality. Detroit is not only a city that once collapsed industrially, but now the tourism industry, which was a potential escape, is also being silently abandoned. The problem isn't just the decrease in the number of tourists, but also the fact that Detroit is no longer on the priority map of major airlines. Many international direct flights have been cut, and connections from Europe or Asia now require layovers, making Detroit less appealing than ever to investors and visitors. But there's a big question, do politicians understand that when an airport is empty, an entire local value chain also stops functioning, from hotels and restaurants to shuttle services, and even logistics companies, all of them depend on the airport's survival. A deserted airport is not just a matter of tourism, it's also a sign that a local economy is falling behind in the national recovery race. While other cities are pouring money into rebranding their tourism image, Detroit is struggling with its inherent problems: public debt, security, and a lack of federal support. Perhaps the saddest thing isn't that DTW is empty, but that people have stopped hoping for it. What do you think? Can Detroit return to its former glory? Or will it be one of the cities forever forgotten in the eyes of international visitors? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Thank you. And now, let's head to the airport in the next city on this list, in a place that once echoed with the sounds of saxophone and endless applause. Now, the melodies still play, but no one is listening anymore. Louis Armstrong International Airport, once the cultural gateway to the American South, is experiencing an eerily empty period, airlines have had to cancel live music performances, not because the artists are not performing, but because there are no audiences. It is estimated that the number of international passengers through MSY has decreased by over 62% compared to the same period last year. Flights from Paris, Rome, or Mexico City that used to fill seats are now sparsely populated with only a few passengers. In particular, the flow of tourists from France, Italy, and Latin America, who are known for their love of New Orleans culture, cuisine, and heritage, has almost completely dried up. But do you know why they chose to leave? Part of this comes from increased tourism taxes, mandatory health insurance for tourists, and hurricanes, all of which paint a rather unpleasant picture for international tourism in the southern United States, when the cost of visiting the US is significantly higher compared to countries like Portugal, Canada, or Thailand. What reason would international visitors have to choose the US? And then a question echoed in the quiet space of the arrival hall. If American culture is no longer a draw, what do we have left? New Orleans was once a vibrant stage, a place where the whole world came to immerse themselves in the music, art, and soul of the South. But now, with the stage lights still on and no one standing below, we are forced to acknowledge: have we lost something irreplaceable? What do you think caused international tourists to abandon one of America's most unique cultural cities? Please share in the comment section. And if you believe there's still something to hold on to in American culture, don't forget to hit subscribe so we can explore and reflect more deeply together in the next parts of this journey. Denver, as the city of wide open skies and majestic Rocky Mountains, was once the busiest transit hub in the United States. But now at Denver International Airport, the boarding gates are completely empty, as the ticket counters have no long lines and the suitcases seem to be rolling across the cold tile floor without knowing where they're going. Located in the heart of America, Denver was once a bustling inland hub connecting east and west, north and south. But in the first half of 2025 alone, over 400 domestic flights were cut at Den, an unimaginable number for an airport that once handled 70 million passengers annually. And the reason isn't just about gas prices or inflation. As a mother from Aurora, Colorado shared, "I want to take my son to Florida to visit his grandmother, but a round-trip ticket is almost $900, as I had to give up." She used to think domestic flights were easy and reasonable. Now even visiting home has become a difficult financial decision, as an ironic thing is happening. Americans are leaving America to relax. Data from Booking.com shows that overseas tours by Americans increased by 37%, while domestic tours decreased by 18%. Why? Because flying to Portugal is cheaper than flying to California, because dinner in Greece is cheaper than lunch in Miami, and because in unfamiliar places, people feel more welcome than they do in their own hometown. Denver, which was once a meeting place in the middle, is losing its connecting role, not just in transportation, but also in social significance, connecting families, connecting cultures, connecting the American dream. When even the people no longer have the option to fly domestically, is the dream of the United States gradually crumbling with each cancelled plane ticket? Is America becoming less friendly to its own people? Share your perspective in the comments section. And if you've had any unforgettable or memorable experiences in Denver, tell us about them. Once a dream destination for millions of Asian tourists, especially the Japanese, Honolulu now resembles an old postcard, as beautiful but covered in the dust of time. And at HNL International Airport, the main gateway to Hawaii, as silence is gradually replacing the lively laughter of sun-kissed holidays. Before the pandemic, Japanese visitors accounted for over 60% of international arrivals to Hawaii. But by 2025, the number of visitors from Japan decreased by as much as 81% compared to 2019. Flights from Tokyo, Osaka, and Sapporo have been reduced or even suspended. At HNL, over 40 duty-free shops and food and beverage services have closed. The entire airport seemed abandoned. A Japanese employee who has worked at the airport since 1998 shared, "Previously, I sold goods to hundreds of Japanese customers every day. Now, only a few people stopped by all week, but she was still lucky to keep her job." Unlike hundreds of airport employees who lost their jobs, as an entire generation of Hawaiians who rely on the service industry are now more precarious than ever. So, in your opinion, what are the reasons why Honolulu International Airport is in its current situation? The reason is probably not just tourism. The wave of boycotting American tourism among young Asians is quietly spreading from Japanese and South Korean social media platforms to Chinese ones. An increasing number of young people are declaring, "I'm not going to America because I feel unsafe, unfriendly," as no longer appealing. In addition, there is a somewhat hardline foreign policy, trade disputes, and unrest. All of this is creating a changed image of America in the eyes of international friends. Hawaii is inseparable from the United States, but it is also never listened to as part of the United States. When decisions in Washington push an entire local economy, which thrives on hospitality, into recession, who will take responsibility? Is America losing the last paradises it still holds? And do you think Hawaii is still paradise? Please share your thoughts. And if you've ever been to Honolulu, are those memories still vivid? San Francisco was once considered a symbol of innovation and freedom, the birthplace of giants like Uber, Airbnb, and Salesforce. Now, San Francisco is no longer a dream destination, but is gradually becoming a symbol of urban decay. Notably, 6 international airlines withdrew from SFO in the first quarter of 2025 alone. Airlines such as Lufthansa, Air China, as in Scandinavian Airlines have completely suspended direct flights to San Francisco, as resulting in a decrease of over 800,000 international passengers compared to the same period last year. In the international areas at SFO, many check-in counters are empty, food courts are closed, and staff have been cut, as a report from Business Traveler US also indicates that SFO dropped 3 places in the list of favorite international airports. Not because of poor service, but because travelers no longer want to visit San Francisco. Why? It's not just due to inflation or rising airfare, but also the alarmingly deteriorating image of the city, a combination of homelessness and theft. You can book a ticket to SFO to enjoy a vacation in coastal California, but just steps outside the airport, you'll find homeless tent encampments stretching for miles, screaming in the night, a pungent smell, and the sight of luxury stores forced to close due to looting. A Canadian tourist described, "I used to dream of visiting San Francisco, but now every time I land at SFO I feel uneasy. San Francisco is the global center of technology, yet it is lagging behind in even the most basic tourism services. How can the richest city in America not even protect its international airport from isolation, as tech CEOs moved to Austin, Miami, and even Canada? SFO has become a forgotten airport in the very land that once prided itself on being the brain of the future. Can an international airport still be called a gateway to the world if the world no longer wants to go there? San Francisco can recover, but who will be the first to return? Please share your thoughts, especially if you've flown to SFO before. Would you want to go back? Philadelphia, the birthplace of the United States, home to the Declaration of Independence and the Liberty Bell, was once an essential destination on any American travel itinerary. But in 2025, the city's international airport became a symbol of a free-fall decline. According to a report by Travel IQ, PHL dropped to the bottom 5 worst airports in the US for experience in 2025. And what's noteworthy is the percentage of 1-star reviews on Google Reviews increased by up to 300% in the first 6 months of the year. Reason it's not due to the weather, but rather the chaos right inside the airport, as many people shared their experiences at the airport where passengers were stranded sleeping on the floor. Baggage carousels were broken for hours, and security lines snake it endlessly due to staff shortages. A woman from Toronto commented, "I arrived at PHL midweek and had to wait over 3 hours to get out of the airport. Everything is a mess, as if no one is in charge." American Airlines has withdrawn a series of flights from Europe and the Caribbean directly to Philadelphia, causing international passenger numbers to drop by nearly 40% in the first half of 2025 alone. International tourists now prioritize flying to New York or Washington, D.C., rather than setting foot in a less experienced place. Why is this happening in a city that was once the historical and cultural center of America? As the underlying causes lie in the near-zero budget situation, inefficient management, and especially the impact of the reverse migration wave. As many Philadelphia residents have left the city, leading to reduced tax revenue and neglected infrastructure like the airport. It's not just a traffic issue. It's trust that's wavering when an airport is no longer a welcoming place for visitors, but rather a place that makes people hesitate to book tickets. The question arises, is Philadelphia losing its role as the spiritual capital of the United States? If places like Philadelphia, the birthplace of American democracy, can't hold on to visitors, then where in America in 2025 is worth visiting? Leave a comment. Have you ever been to PHL? And if you were chosen, would you come back to this city? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because next we'll be visiting what was once the ideal American airport, but is now eerily deserted. Once hailed as America's favorite airport, Portland International Airport, or PDX, is not just an air gateway, but a source of pride for the entire Pacific Northwest region. But now, as most of the seats that were once packed with international passengers are empty, as an Australian couple who had eagerly planned a trip to explore the US West Coast cancelled their flight to Portland at the last minute to exchange their tickets for a flight to Vancouver. As Canada, what's the reason? They shared. Part of it comes from the news about protests and unrest that makes us feel unsafe. PDX lost up to 75% of its international passengers in just 2 years. This isn't just a number. It's a sign that a city once full of hope is facing a crisis of confidence from the outside world itself. As international flights from Europe and Asia, which were once heavily promoted, have now quietly disappeared from the departure boards. The decline of PDX is also more symbolic than any other airport on this list. If Portland, once a destination for travelers who love uniqueness, nature and openness, is also turning away, what does that say about America today? Are we witnessing not just an airport reducing flights, but America closing its own doors to welcome itself from San Francisco to Philadelphia, from Denver to Portland, as airports that were once symbols of American prosperity, trade and dreams are now silently empty? It's not just about tourism, but a bigger question. How is the world viewing America? When tourists choose to cancel their tickets to major US cities and switch to Canada, Europe, or even destinations in Asia, it's no longer a personal decision. It was a wake-up call for the image, safety, as an cultural appeal of a country that once led the world. What do you think is the real reason why American airports are so empty? Have you ever experienced the empty, cold atmosphere at airports that were once bustling? If you were me, where would you choose to fly? New York or Toronto? Is Los Angeles like Vancouver? Please leave a comment right below, because your perspectives are what make this conversation more meaningful than ever. If you find this video accurately reflects the reality, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next analyses of the changes in America and the world. Don't forget to like and share if you want to contribute to opening up necessary dialogues in today's society. This video is for the purpose of socio-political and tourism analysis from an independent perspective and is not intended to offend any individual or organization. All data is compiled from public sources as of the time of production. Thank you for watching, we'll see you in the next video where things no one wants to say will be expressed through data, emotion, and authenticity.